Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Real Abilities. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Isaac Zablocki. I am the director and co-founder of Real Abilities, and we're very excited to have you here for the Q&A for the film Crutch. For those of you who would like a live transcript, you can click on the live transcript button for captions right on the bottom of your Zoom window. Please be a part of this conversation and add your questions, comments, and thoughts to the chat, and we will open your mic to bring you on to ask those questions in a live way. If you can't add them in the chat, please raise your hand either virtually or in person. We'll be happy to see you and to call on you as well. We've had an amazing day of short film conversations. Tomorrow we continue that with Shorts 4. We had so many great films this year. We had to divide it into 4 blocks of screenings. Tomorrow, Shorts 4 starting at 2 p.m. and then another full day of programming. We'll have at 4 p.m. a conversation with an industry panel called Game Changers with Lauren Ridloff, who is really one of the most rising stars in the disability community, Kat Kraft, who is a writer, and Ryan Haddad, another star who's going to be also part of our comedy night. Then finally, tomorrow night, the film, The Special. We're going to have the Q&A for the film, The Special. So please join us for that and more. We're here all week till Wednesday, and so many great programs and conversations and films, and try to keep up. That's all I can tell you. There's too much to see, and they're all really great and impactful. We hope you've been enjoying all of the programs up until now. Going back to tonight, first of all, we are so grateful to all of our partners. Check out our partner page on the website to see all of our partners and all the work that's being done and all the people that make this festival possible. But for this film specifically, I want to highlight Adaptive Sports Foundation, Barrier Free Living, Danceability, Keen New York, NYC Kids Project, NYU Center for Ballet and the Arts, NYU Center for Disability Studies, and the NYU Center for Media, Culture, and History, which you'll hear about more in a moment. ZCO Dance Project as well. Also a big thank you to Vimeo, who is our sponsor for all of our conversations, and grateful to them for making this possible. Normally, when we run in person, we actually are in many locations. One of those locations from, I think, our first year, Faye, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure from our first year was NYU. And we are really excited to have this event presented by NYU virtually, and to have our good friend Faye Ginsberg here with us, and she will introduce in a moment. Before that, all of our films, as you know, are presented with open captions, and now also, and as it's been for a few years, with audio description. One of the biggest advocates for the use of audio description, the creation of audio descriptions, and supporter of audio description for this festival, and specifically for this film, is a lovely woman named Michelle Spitz, and she is here with us tonight and is going to share a few words. Michelle, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. I wanted to say that I am so grateful and I feel honored to be able to have made this film accessible to low vision and blind audiences. It was quite a wonderful opportunity to explore all the different aspects of this film. And as far as Bill is concerned, to be able to let people know all the nuances of you and your movements and your expressions, this was really truly a gift for us to work on. And so I hope everybody gets the opportunity to experience it in this fashion. And I look forward to learning more about your journey and the future of this film. So I thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for everything you do for this community and beyond. I will also share, because I saw the question in the chat, that that this panel is being recorded, and of course will be shared with the viewers of the film after after it's recorded. So people will have access to it at all times, and of course all these films are accessible this week. Check them out, and check out the audio description function that has just been added by Eventive, our platform that we use here. Now it gives me great pleasure to hand things over to our good friend, one of really the founding inspirations for this festival, Faye Ginsberg from NYU.
Thank you so much, Isaac, and really just an honor to be helping to support this fantastic film, which I know people can either have viewed or can continue to view, and this rich conversation with Bill Shannon and the filmmakers, and with the wonderful Jaron Herman, who's going to be doing the moderation. I'm here representing the NYU Center for Disability Studies, as well as the NYU Center for Media, Culture, and History, and we're very proud to be co-sponsoring this. We've been actually focusing all our programming this year on disability arts. And of course, the person we wanted to invite someone who is well-known in the downtown art scene, the all over New York art scene, Jaron Herman, to support us by being a moderator for this evening's conversation. For those of you who might not know Jaron, he's a wonderful, inexhaustible interdisciplinary artist, working in dance, text, visual storytelling, and just seems to be everywhere in New York. So I'm gonna get out of the way for all this talent to be talking to you all. So over to you, Jaron.
Thank you, Faye. Hello, everyone. That was really kind. That boilerplate is awesome. No, hi, I'm Jaron Herman. I'm a dark-skinned Black man with facial hair and loose locks. I'm wearing all Black everything today. Hey, I'm really so excited to be in this conversation with the filmmakers Sachi Cunningham and Chandler Evans, and our star of Crutch, Bill Shannon, who is indomitable himself. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. Also, we have Sachi at a wine bar, so we can turn up a little bit on the side. I love it. So good to talk to you all. I had a really absorbing time with this film, Crutch, as a documentary, as a piece of art. So my first question for Bill really is, how does it feel to have a documentary on you?
You know, it's kind of surreal on some level, because documentaries have to have motivation, they have to have framing, they have to kind of edit. You have to edit, you know, you have to build the story. And so, you know, it's like a version, it's a splinter of what and who I am. And, you know, that's a constant negotiation. As far as the end product, the process, you know, inviting that process into my work and into, you know, aspects of my life related to my work. I feel like that it was instrumental in helping like capture traffic and all of those things in really dynamic ways, because you know how it is on a dance, you're doing like an interdisciplinary media project with a dance budget. Mm-hmm. And so it's really great to be like, oh, there's these people who want to like follow me around with 3 cameras and document everything in this more professional way, whereas I would probably have had 1 camera there or whatever, or 2 cameras that were less quality with less dedicated sound equipment on the, you know, so it really upped the level of documentation, which is really useful also for the torture of applying for grants. So, you know, there was a very practical kind of utilitarian element of it. And then I guess finally, you know, I grew up a spectacle. I mean, I feel like I've always been looked at in public space and watched. And even before that, you know, my parents were Marxist, communist, you know, organizers. We had the FBI at our house knocking on the door. So even then, as a child, I thought I'm being watched. So I've never really had a sense, like possibly, you know, many children would assume, or kids would assume, that their lives are private, you know, because our government watches, people who have political opposition to capitalism, basically. So in that sense, being watched was never much of anything new ever since, as far as I can remember. So
Wow, yeah. And I hear you about like the format changing, like there's like a permission in documentary to be followed, whereas in other ways you have to fudge it. Similarly for everyone, Chandler and Sachi, there's a real depth in the archive, in the presentation of the media that we see. Can you talk to us a little bit about like maybe Bill, how I guess you alluded to this, like there's already this surveillance, this assumption of surveillance in your personal life for various reasons, but maybe is there another external motivation for maybe why you and your network captured these images, these emblematic moments, like your arrests, like the many kinds of your film making, and then for the filmmakers, how did you approach detailed documentation of Bill's art versus his real life, and what values came out of doing that work? Like what is valuable, and what does detailed documentation say about our values generally, if that makes sense?
I'll let you guys go first.
Well, I actually this story I like to say the story started actually when I was in first grade with Bill in Pittsburgh, and I was not documenting it. I was the gazer looking at Bill. In those photos you see of him with always wondering who this kid was with the braces, standing at the top of the stairs during recess, watching us all play and wondering why he wasn't coming down and playing, and why was he wearing these braces? And so just kind of making up a story in my own head, right, as we do, until we start asking. And I had the opportunity of getting to know Bill as a friend in high school later, and then he invited me to document him. And so that first interview at the start of the film is actually the first interview that I did using Bill's camera. I didn't know how to document. I was working in feature film, but hadn't really mastered any of the filmmaking skills. And so, so that first interview started my journey actually of, I ended up applying to graduate school at UC Berkeley to learn documentary film, because in that first shoot, I realized I knew nothing about how to document and tell someone's story. So, so I went to school for that, and I'll pass it to Chandler.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of like the depth of footage, we have hundreds of hours of footage now. And part of that is, going back to Sachi's first interview. It was a 20-year process for us following Bill. So in that, like, we basically built our own archive of footage. And then we were so lucky because Bill has documented his work over the years. And then, going back to the early stuff, you talked about the arrest stuff. One of his friends was a video artist, Brian Cummings. So, and he had a huge archive of VHS stuff that they shot. And so we had, Bill connected us with Brian, and so we had access to that. And then Griff Iffis shot all the Super 16 stuff, like the Bill in the yellow rain jacket dance. And so we were lucky to get that. And then one of Bill's friends, one of the Step Fiends, Cyclone, Dave Fogler, he shot a lot of the underground dance stuff, and we had access to that. So we were just like very, very lucky that all these people like were involved with video and art, and Bill facilitated us having access to it, and we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, I think the way that the film covers all of those different media, because of the time frame of the production just going on and on for years and years, and just, hey, let's upgrade the camera, let's do an interview with the new kind of camera, and then me digging in my crates, because really video was a tool for me since 86, 87. My mom bought a camcorder, and I started recording family stuff with the VHS and like the almost like 87, I would say, before I got out of high school.
Mhm.
And so that RCA camcorder, I still own it. And so that was like, from there on, it was always an important part of my work to have video involved in it. So that, and then, so you went from VHS to high 8, and then or no, regular 8 first, 8mm, then high 8, then mini DV, then HDV, and etc. So it has all of those formats, plus 3/4 beta SP on a Sony vacuum camera, which is the operation footage was my video production, and I made the metal costumes for it and did the soundtrack and everything. I was moving toward being a filmmaker before I moved to New York and became known as a dancer. And so that film called For Recovery, I think it's about 6 or 7 minutes long. And the section that they edited out with the surgery scene, that was shot on a vacuum tube camera before cameras were, they were using like the tubes and the light exposure, and the blacks are super dark on that. So anyway, yeah, so there's a lot there.
Yeah, so it was just, there was this intuition around documentation versus like a kind of concerted need to like document progression or a sense of life. Yes, no, yeah, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically art, it's making art as an artist, and that's one tool in the quiver of media as an interdisciplinary, conceptually driven artist, where really I'm approaching a problem, and from there, the medium I pick up as my tool is the one I feel like is the right one for that particular concept or idea that I'm trying to express. So
yeah.
So video was very important to document sculpture, to document performance, to document events and culture, skateboarding, breakdancing, etc. All of that was critical in video. So,
Bill, there's like throughout the film, and especially with Sachi, what you said about the first interview, like this theme of being misunderstood, right? By the critics, by even the medical industry. I mean, I think the fascinating thing is we follow the story of your presumed deterioration of your own body and how you have to manipulate a bevy of different kinds of contexts with that. So what first, Bill, what do people misunderstand about you? And then 2, who gets what you do? And what is the marker of a person who gets you?
Well, first of all, I just want to, again, about documentaries and having a theme or so yes, I talk a lot about being misunderstood, but I think everyone has that feeling of like, I'm misunderstood. People don't really get what I'm doing. I think that's really common for us to want to be more understood, to want to be more embraced and accepted. So on that level, I feel like it's a universal aspect of just navigating life. And the documentary then exposed some of the elements of my work that basically, because with the way I work from a conceptually driven place, I'm answering problems. My work is about solving problems to arrive at a solution that then introduces new problems that then I address that problem. And so there's a lineage of everything I do that goes all the way back to my earliest work. Like I can pick up a zine from 1990 and I can show you how that work relates exactly to what I'm doing right now, like in how the lineages go across media, across time, and across concepts. So it's like a grid. My first website, Virtual Provocateur, laid it out. It was the years across the top, the medium down the side, and it was just like connect them as much, and then projects on the right. So, so that's how I think. So I think being misunderstood in that aspect as an artist is generally like, I do a show, right? PS 122, Art of Weightlessness. Well, I'm a disabled dancer. I'm performing on crutches. It's an invented form of movement. It's on crutches you've never seen before. It's music that's coming out that week. I mean, the music we were using was a live DJ of music that's being created in that year. Like in that, you hadn't heard this music. You hadn't seen these crutches. You hadn't seen this dance. You've never seen it in a black box. hip hop or disability theater was very new. This was 1990. I
Mhm.
guess it was 99 or something. I did PS 122, Art of Weightlessness.
It was novel in 2012 too, I can tell you.
Yeah, so back then it was like, what is it? Like, what the hell? Like, so I think people, so that sense of being misunderstood because of the layers of the work and trying, my fault as an artist is that I try to put too much layers in a single piece. And so people are like, well, okay, I saw this thread and I saw that thread, and how do they interact? And, so the process has become more important to me than the product. So yes, I'm misunderstood in that way. Critics, about New York City, New York Times, Village Voice, right? They send their reviewers. Okay, it's a black box theater. There's a certain assumption around that. It's proscenium. It's a theatrical production, but it's hip hop. Now, my philosophy and approach to hip hop theater is different than my performance art and different than my solo theater, because hip hop culture presented in the theater in a skit-based format. In other words, the hip hop format is not an arc of an hour. It never was. It never will be. It was never supposed to be that. And so my work was stringing together these skits and like juxtaposing them across each other. But a theater critic would like, oh, there were all these breaks, and what happened to to sneaking in the transitions. And so there's also this, I'm suspending your suspension of disbelief, because hip hop doesn't do that. The culture doesn't really do that. So just in the terms of coming out of a hip hop background, in terms of my approach to theater, and then on top of that, layering in the disability. So is it a piece about disability, or is it a piece about the politics of opening up the cipher and the circle into the square? Or is it both? Well, when so that's how being misunderstood in that context happens. And then the critics, I mean, I feel like that's self-explanatory. And I'm not going to, I could go on for this for a long time, but like I said before we started, this time frame is impossible to answer these questions in a thorough manner that they deserve to be. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what you're saying is so true in the sense that like you're blending so many different like literal cultures and mediums. I mean, that they like to coalesce, for them to coalesce, there would have to be some kind of literacy around them initially, right? So maybe there's like this work to do about how do people read, how do people read differently? Similarly, I think in this documentary and how we think about, I'm like saying documentary, I don't know why, because I have doc in my notes, but the doc style contributes to a form of storytelling, especially in the way that disability is told. A disabled narrative in documentary style has many connotations. For the filmmakers, again, what did the documentary style and how you approach this project either contribute to your understanding of disability, art or disability art? I now know like that there's this personal connection, which is also another layer, right? The subject in an intimate way. But yeah, can you tell me a little bit about how the documentary style and how you approached the film contributed to your understanding of disability and separately art?
I mean, I think it radically changed our relationship to disability and, illuminated so much for us. I mean, from the very beginning, Bill was like, I am not going to be in a film that is a triumph over adversity story. He's like, I'm not about being an inspiration. This is not going to be inspiration porn. And so from the very beginning, like we already, like the framework was not going to be, like we could have structured a story that way. We could have been, Bill is, he has Lake Caprathis, he's on crutches, he learns how to dance, and then eventually he does Cirque du Soleil, and then it's a big success, and everyone's like, woo. I mean, that could have been a documentary right there. In many ways, we were lucky because when we really intersected, when Saatchi began with Bill, it was right before he had just started doing The Art of Weightlessness and Regarding the Fall and all the performance pieces that were starting to, look at perceptions of disability. And so, and that's kind of like, we were lucky that we were able to go on this journey, and eventually that transformed into Window, Bench, and Traffic. And I mean, just the fact that he had created language around the phenomenology that he encountered, the depth of the material that we were working with kept on getting more and more layered. And to Bill's, like what he's saying, like, I mean, part of our challenge was structurally, how do we give the audience the tools to understand what he's doing and then appreciate at the end, like what he's accomplished.
Right. Yeah. Sachi, anything to add?
Well, I know I'm still stuck on the idea of being misunderstood, which I think is actually what drew me to Chandler. And I think the reason we were able to work so well together is that we met through a group for multiracial and biracial students at Brown University. And so we're both mixed race. And so I think just inherently we understood what it was to be misunderstood. I knew he got it just from his lived experience, which could translate so well to Bill's experience. I mean, I think Bill at one point during the production also just said that, I think I asked you, Bill, what do you think? So I have an invisible disability. I have bipolar disorder. And I had asked Bill what he thought was similar about our disabilities. And it was that we were misunderstood. And so I think that disabilities as a whole is, that's just something that we intrinsically understood, and also intrinsically understood how complex the real story is behind that, judging a book by its cover, and that there was just so much to mine there in terms of understanding what Bill's art was and who he was as a person. And so as a documentarian, that's both gold and difficult. So hence the 20 years and letting it unfold and trying to understand it ourselves. We really, part of the joy of working with Chandler is that I had another smart person to we didn't even really understand what Bill was doing at the beginning. We were just like, I don't know, it's interesting. Like, I don't know where he's going with it, but we just have to keep documenting and see what happens, at the end of all of this. So.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, Bill was speaking in his own language. I mean, he had created his own language about the phenomenology that he was encountering, and like he would use that in discourse, and you'd be like, oh, okay, and then later you'd be like, oh, I have no idea what he really meant, and then later watching the interviews again, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's
I mean, the breakdown, right? The breakdown of media, that part, Bill, where you are like breaking down your interaction with that lady on the steps is so money, because it's just it's a dialectic. It's art, and it's a scholarship, and it's a bunch of different things that really worked together really well. And as a piece of performance, it was really exciting to see kind of pedantic style fused with a bit of like tongue in cheek. My last question. Thank you all so much for this insight.
There's actually a kind of a label or a very succinct handle for what you just said about the dialectic in it. It's like a real-time sociological anthropology as performance art. So it's like performance art in real time to approach sociological phenomenology from a kind of anthropological way. And it's like separating the pieces, dusting them off, and identify them. So that's kind of how I try to that's how I summarize to people sometimes. And I didn't even come up with that. Somebody in an audience somewhere like came up to me and was like, that's kind of like real-time anthropology you're doing. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty good.
Wow. Did you go to Art Institute? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Okay. The last question I really have for you is, let's take it back to the film. The end of this film is, or really the through line of this film is you at this camp with kids that also were diagnosed with the disability you were diagnosed with as a child. And you reveal like your anxiety, you reveal that it's repairing. So I was wondering if like there's anything that you take out from that talks about like what longevity means or mentorship means as an artist, and what might your ambitions for like a succession, like we're talking about, you have this language now, like where are you going, you know, and where are you going to insert, or is there a desire to insert anywhere else, in other bodies or students or contexts, you know?
You know, there's a lot of different answers to that.
Mhm.
First of all, I just think artist and legacy is kind of it's, you know, I think that we, you know, have this idea that we want to live on beyond our lives, and we're going to do this, we're going to make a statement that will be timeless, you know, or that, you know, I know there's several people who learn my technique, who practice it, who use it in different ways. And also just the idea of it has manifest, like sort of pollinated other art forms and other artists. And so on that level, I think that, you know, it's kind of something that is no longer looked at like, oh, that's crazy, dancing on crutches. It's more like, oh yeah, people dance on crutches now. You know, like as a cultural phenomena globally, I think it's understood that people dance on crutches. Whereas I think when I started dancing on crutches in the early 90s, you know, or performing on them, it was more like, what are you doing? You know, so I do think that that's something that has kind of changed. As far as the theme of the camp, you know, that was part of the documentary, that the documentary was documenting itself. I'd always kind of avoided the trope of the disabled person going back to the disabled kids that have the same disability, and then do the disability sharing moment with those disabled kids and you as an adult. And the whole trope just is cringe to me. Like, I don't like it. And so part of the conversation is like, we're not going to make disability porn, so to speak.
Right, like it's too easy.
Huh?
Mhm. It's like too easy.
Yeah, but it's also such a trope that, you know, and I'm very careful to kind of sidestep those not try not to fit into those pigeonholes that so much representation of disability. Like, our entire purpose is to educate the children and show them how we handled our disability to help those children. And while it is important to do that, I think my representation as an artist, it's kind of inaccurate, because really what it is that the documentary started happening. Saatchi and Chandler started meeting other people with Perthes who were also very interested. And then one of these people, Earl, had this camp. And so I got invited to the camp. And all of a sudden I found myself at a Perthes camp, which I never would have been at in a million years. Maybe because it's just not the kind of work that I do. So, you know, the agreement was like, we're not going to make it inspiration porn, but I felt like what this did was it made it like a meta level. Like, they had the thread of like the deconstruction, like it went the arc, it did the arc, but there was the deconstruction of, but at the same time, it would return to that trope. And so I really struggled with that. I asked them to take it out. I asked them to reduce it a lot, you know, and that's the difference that I had to let go though. I gave them final edit. I said, hey, you know, you guys make this. And so like my experience there was extremely intense because I had never met children with Perthes really ever. And I had children of my own. And so there was this massive rush of emotions around my children seeing like what I went through when I was a child. And that was really intense emotionally. And then also me remembering myself at that age and how I felt and how I moved through the day. And that was really difficult because it was like all my PTSD came rushing back, and I was like, you know, just really upset. I think because it reminded me of the feeling I had when I was that age. And basically when I was in the house with my father, I never could relax. Like, I was always guarded. And that feeling of always being scared, and because I never knew when he was going to fly off the hook. It wasn't like, oh, you spilled the milk, so now you get punishment. It was literally out of nowhere. And so, you know, I hadn't really remembered the physical sensation of being terrified at being hit for something you don't know when it's going to happen. And so that's called PTSD. And what happened at the camp was I started, you know, I saw these kids, and then I remembered the feeling that I had when I was that age. And so that happened too. So it was a really incredible moment to share the skateboarding with them and everything. And it was just a really very personal. And I'm happy that I went. And I just feel like that the thread of that being the backbone of the film, when my art, there's so much in my art that, but at the same time, they were struggling because my family life was very private. I was going through basically a breakup with my wife. I'm divorced now. So, there was a lot of things like, you can't show me smoking weed on camera because I want to drive my kids around and I don't want to have that coming up in some court case, for example. So I smoke weed all the time. But like, that's not in the doc at all. Like, Bill doesn't smoke weed. It makes me kind of look like this. It's just more a G-rated thing, and that's not who I am. So they didn't have that access to my family. So they had to have something that showed me being emotional and bonding and connecting to people in this very human way. And so that footage became kind of this thread this became the thread. And, it was a creative difference with them as filmmakers. It was a philosophical difference. It was something about disability, the trope of disability kind of becoming central to the film. So I felt like, it didn't do the narrative arc that we're used to, but it became kind of a meta kind of way of, it was in there, but wasn't dominant.
Well, I think it's encased in the title, Crutch. I mean, that's your stage name. That's also.
It was my stage name.
It was your stage name. Excuse me.
That was in my battle era. See, I was competing with people named and dancing with people named Cyclone and Wild Child.
Right.
So I had a handle as a b-boy, as a street dancing house hip hop club person. And that was my handle. So when I stepped into the cypher and I entered a battle, it was Crutch Master. Right. And then I did performance art some before that. So, but my name changed once I started to become a full-fledged artist and was realizing that I can't put that handle on me as a stage name because I was going to academic conferences around intersectionality and they're like, what's your name? Crutch Master. That doesn't really, no.
Right. It's like Crutch Master has a PhD.
Yeah. I mean, that's possible if my work was totally rooted in just that element. But
interesting.
So that was the other challenge, was the title, don't call it Crutch. And I was like, call it Cancer, whatever. But, at the same time, they did an amazing job. So it's really hard to be like one way or the other about it. That's what the element of having a doc about you. You don't make it, you don't control it. It happens. And in a way, I was speaking to other disabled artists, and I'm not going to name her or anything, but she was like, I just don't let people make docs about me.
It's real. No, that's so real. Like, you kind of crossed the Rubicon, and you might have to have a target on your back after this. No, but I think the other thing that I want to say though, is that this is something in the world, right? This is something that we have in our communities and our various communities as something as we could look to, and we're going to dissect it for years to come. So I thank you for this primer and this introduction to this film and to your artistry. All of you all, thank you, Chandler. Thank you, Sachi. Thank you, Bill. We are out of time.
I wish I could hear from you guys on those final points, though. That's too bad. But yeah, it's short. So.
We still have questions from the audience, so they could get into them afterward. Great. I'm gonna pass it over to Isaac. Thank you all so much. Yeah.
Thanks, Jaron. You led a fantastic Q&A. Folks, this is your chance to ask some questions. You have such an engaged panel here. We're going to start. It was touched on a little bit, but Bruce, maybe there's more that you're trying to understand here as far as the response to the critics. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Bruce. Bruce, you're on.
I was muted, sorry. You have, through a number of points in the documentary, the discussion of what the critics are saying about you as a performer and not getting it, and really not, saying you're just a person with a disability and there's nothing there. And what I wrote in the chat was, at the moment in it when you're shown coming down the steps of Brooklyn Borough Hall and swinging through Cadden Plaza, that you've got the grace and the suavity of Gene Kelly, and it's beyond me that since I don't think any of those critics would have questioned him as a dancer, why are they questioning you? And have you ever broken through on that? And then the other thing I saw, and you sort of spoke to that, there was a scene with your son, holding on as you're skateboarding down the street, which is sort of similar to your interaction with the kids, which was amazing. You have really great rapport. That and I would think that would also be a profoundly positive thing. As to me, as a teacher, that's like a great thing to be a great teacher. I hope that was clear.
So I'm not sure what the question was. What was the question in a very succinct way? Like
Have you ever gotten any determination or clarity of, why the critics dismissed you?
Well, some didn't. I mean, some I got good reviews too. So it was mixed reviews, but I think the reason was because it wasn't just simply me being a virtuoso. I wasn't interested in making these dance productions where I did these virtuoso performances. And I was interested in breaking the mold. I was saying, how can I break hip hop? How can I break the proscenium? And how can I break disability representation and question it in ways that comes to new solutions? So I was doing, hip hop heads would come to see my work and it'd be like, it's too experimental. Like, why are they going so slow? And I'm like, because the time frame of hip hop is so short and house dance is so short that I wanted to extend it. So I took that moment that's usually 2 minutes in a circle and I stretched it to 12 minutes. And I said, let's just settle in that really quiet moment of coming in and out of the circle before you do your big blow up. Just concentrate on that. So then these house dancers who never performed on the stage before would go out and perform that, and then I would perform with them, but it would be misunderstood by the people coming from the club perspective who didn't get to publish their feelings about it, but they were similarly disappointed because they didn't get their crystallized, like, this is what it is, this is what we came for. And the same with theater dance. They didn't get the présence, the formal. Our crew was from the club and we acted like it. And that's not fitting into the canon of this is what happens when you go see a theater performance. And so it's seen as mistakes or immature or messy or not under, all of those things happened but the thing is, I don't make work to entertain and I don't make work to please anyone. It's all driven by what I need to know, self-knowledge and knowledge of the world. I mean, it's not about entertainment. So I think there is some element of I should be more entertaining maybe, or the process could be more. And some people love it because they see those tests, they see those pushing those boundaries, and that's what they came for. And so people who really are in the scene, who are my people who I know who aren't looking, they understand it and they love it and I love it. And so we go on that journey together, and that's how it happens. So I don't care that I never felt like I needed to break through because I think eventually it'll be understood. It just was before its time, literally. I'm not trying to brag about it, but it was just I was doing these things before they were being done on in a big way, or in more commonly understood way. Now disability in the dance proscenium world is understood much more. Same with hip hop and house dance forms. Now there's theater, Shakespeare, Hamilton is all hip hop, MC based theater, so it's a genre now. But then it wasn't, and I mixed them. So even if you know what I'm saying, so they were mixed genre of mixed unknown genres. So it's hard to see my virtuosity of Gene Kelly when you're trying to put it in a frame where it's taking Gene Kelly and then doing like a collapse in the middle of it that is like sculptural integrity, slow motion performance art based on popping from hip hop, you know, and tuts, Egyptian tut. So that mushing together of everything makes it really hard for those critics that cut their teeth on their on the canon to come and see something like I'm doing, because I never even studied dance or theater or, you know, I never really studied that in school. I was an independent study at an art school that required you not to declare a major. So, I mean, that was just literally like wide open. What are you thinking? And that's what I did.
Thank you. I want to ask one last question to the filmmakers. What's the plan with the film? Where is it going after Real Abilities?
It's awesome.
It's top secret. Yeah, well, we're in negotiations with hopefully getting it out there to, you know, obviously we want the widest audience possible. So we're just going to continue on the festival circuit for now, and hope to be announcing a way for people to watch it beyond the festival circuit soon. But if you know, we want to do, hopefully there will be a time not in the near distant future that we can have in-person screenings. So, you know, if we want to be doing community screenings and theatrical and educational screenings. So definitely please spread the word and let us know if you know of any opportunities like that beyond the festival. But yes, thank you so much.
Chandler, anything to add?
No, I think Sachi summed it up really well. I mean, we're hoping to close a distribution deal, but in the meantime, we really are interested in pushing educational distribution with the film, because we just feel like, you know, it asks questions that should be asked, and it provokes a lot of really interesting conversations. We've done a number of screenings with college audiences, and it's been really wonderful to get the questions that come back. And to Saji's point, man, we would love to do something in person at some point, because we've been a COVID film. Like you know, everything has been online, so we've never even been in a theater with an audience. And I mean, it would be great to have Bill be able to do something, perform, and like incorporate the film and do something all together. So that would be a wonderful opportunity in the future, hopefully. And thank you guys for having us, because this has been wonderful too. So we really appreciate it.
Soon in person. Thank you so much. I want to thank Bill, Sachi, Chandler, being a really enlightening conversation. And Jerome, thank you so much for leading this. Faye, thank you for hosting. Michelle, thank you for everything you do. I want to thank all of our partners for making this possible, and thank you to the audience for being a part of this. Spread the word. People need to see this film and all the other ones here at Real Abilities. We're here till Wednesday night. We look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good night and stay safe. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.